I met my wife in my early 30s. She was in her mid-20s at the time. I was already well established and had made a significant amount of money working as a quant and investing my savings diligently. She on the other hand had never gone to college and was content working for basically minimum wage. So when I meet her, we click instantly and I fall head over heels for her. We get married and move in together and soon after have 3 kids. When we were expecting our firstborn, she had told me she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Obviously I was jealous, but I went along with it since it seemed logical. So she spends the next 20 plus years as a stay-at-home mom taking care of our kids while I work 12-hour days and then some. I'm not demeaning stay-at-home moms by the way, but in the context of our marriage, she had an extremely easygoing lifestyle. A couple years ago I discovered she had been cheating on me with her friend's husband. Divorce obviously followed. The only major asset we had in the United States was our house, which was a premarital asset. We had a shared bank account, but since I am a finance guy I handled all our investments and for tax reasons invested it abroad in my home country. Now if we had just grown apart or she said she was unhappy, I'd have no problem paying what's fair. But the fact she cheated on me is what makes me resent paying her a cent. So in the divorce she is awarded half of our investments made during marriage, more than 90% of which are abroad in my name, along with alimony for 20 years for 30% of my pay. So here I am given an opportunity to get out of this entirely by moving back to my home country and never looking back. So I sell our house as fast as possible, move the money abroad, and move back to my home country while stringing her along about why it's taking so long to liquidate our savings. Once abroad I immediately stop alimony payments. Now she has no legal recourse, I've double-checked with lawyers, and is left with her share of the small amount we had in the States. The reason I'm asking here is that my own children are split on this. My son is on my side 100%, while my daughters are 90% on their mother's side. I figured it would be interesting to see the opinions of people here. You're the idiot, even if she cheated. This isn't about feelings at this point. This is about labor relations. The idea of alimony for the stay-at-home spouse is that they raised your kids, foregoing other work. It doesn't matter that she was working for minimum wage. She gave up opportunities once you had the kids. She didn't save for retirement because if someone is a primary caregiver the idea is that the spouse who works outside the home takes care of retirement. Now that the marriage is over, alimony fulfills your obligation to pay for her half of the labor of raising the children you also wanted. Yeah. Who's going to hire a woman in her 40s or 50s who hasn't worked in 20 years? Even working minimum wage jobs she could have still worked her way up to management positions, while also saving for retirement and paying into supplemental security income. She gave up a lot to raise those kids. Daycare costs a ton and likely would have cost most or all of the amount she was working for, while she'd still be expected to cook and clean. The only benefit would be that she was paying into supplemental security income. She shouldn't have cheated, but she's well and truly screwed. Not the idiot. People talking about how she was a stay-at-home mom and that's why she is entitled to this money is the wrong answer. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was her choice. She requested it. OP supported it. The way OP talks it seems like they are pretty well off, or that OP really knows how to handle money, so childcare wouldn't have been a problem. In my mind, the ex-wife cheated and forged the alimony payments because of this. Why should he continue to support a cheater for 20 more years when he's trying to wash his hands of her? Cut that cancer out of his life and move on. My niece is engaged to her new boyfriend. They have been dating for 4 months, and she is just 19. My brother told her that he will stop funding her life if she marries him. My niece is pretty spoiled. She visited me last week. I think she thought I would be supportive because I was also cut off because I refused to divorce my wife. She was telling me who she knew it would be difficult but she could manage because she loved him. I asked her if she had a budget. She said she didn't. I offered to help make her one and she was enthusiastic. She didn't know how much he made and when she texted him about it he was being shady and not responding. So I assumed he would make $16 per hour and work 12 hours per day for 6 days and $10,000 in tips, and I assumed she would work the same hours and make the same amount. I then showed her how much things will actually cost and budgeted them figures in. I also emphasized that these were very generous assumptions on my part and it is a rosier picture than reality. It still meant that she would have to make substantial changes to her lifestyle, and I think it dawned on her how drastically different it would be to date someone without money and be actually married to them. She asked me how we made it work, and I told her that my wife and I had sat down for hours preparing budgets and getting ready to be cut off, and we were cut off in our early 30s and already had two great careers and received other inheritances which had helped immensely. She was sober and serious when she left my house. She broke up with him and has moved back home. It appears she asked him about his salary and it was lower than my assumptions and that freaked her out and she broke up with him. She is upset and she said I scared her and she really misses him. My wife said that I was a bit manipulative with my assumptions as I did know they were more generous than normal and she would freak out when she tried to make a real budget. I did know that and it does make me feel a bit bad. I feel like I played her here. Not the idiot. You didn't play her. You gave her a badly needed dose of reality. You showed her how to make a budget, which gave her a rosy picture of how her life would be with him financially. It was a much lower standard of living than she is used to. It forced her to look at the financial ramifications going forward if she stayed in that relationship. She decided that her standard of living was more important to her than love. Thanks for taking the time to explain to her how things work in the adult world. No idiots here, although I think you could have emphasized that there's nothing wrong with dating her boyfriend if they have a good relationship, even if he doesn't yet make the kind of money that would support the lifestyle she wants. At 19, dating is for fun and self-discovery. She can get married later when she's got her adult life together. Also, your family is hell of controlling about money, so be careful you haven't picked up any fleas in your thinking. Not the idiot, because they were already engaged. It's gonna be hard to take a step back from engagement. I agree dating at that age is about self-discovery, but she had already agreed to a future with this guy. To be clear, the only reason I say not the idiot is because niece shouldn't be blaming OP for crunching the numbers and making her realize what she was signing up for. I know it's out of hurt, but OP was doing her a massive favor. She clearly didn't understand what she was in for and hadn't discussed finances with her fiancé. My parents and I have a strained and distant relationship. I was their oldest growing up, and my two younger siblings were born with special needs and disabilities. My brother has autism and my sister was starved of oxygen at birth and has disabilities relating to that. Both my siblings function like children and growing up our house was designed for their comfort and needs, and our lives revolved around that. I wasn't allowed friends over, I wasn't allowed birthday parties or any kind of birthday celebration. I would get in trouble for making noise. They would even take gifts off me sometimes. Like my best friend bought me a CD player when I was a teenager and they didn't like that it made noise near my siblings' bedrooms. The house was quiet. Even how loud I talked could get me into trouble. It made me resent my parents. It felt like they were forgetting me while trying to be good parents to my siblings. We discussed it once and never again. They told me my siblings had more needs than I did, so I needed to be understanding. I'm now a mom, and I could not imagine going through what they did, but I also couldn't imagine letting one of my kids suffer because of it. Yes, life would need to be different. But I would do everything to give them as many experiences as I could. My parents didn't see that as a priority. I refused to let them do it with my kids too. My parents met my kids once. My oldest turned 5 recently, and my parents wanted me to cancel my oldest's birthday party so they could bring my siblings. They sent me a list of all these demands and I told them no, that I would not let my siblings' needs get in the way of my kids having fun while they're kids. I would not let it spoil these moments for them like it did me. My parents were pissed. They were outraged I would say that to them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your parents made your childhood revolve around your siblings and their needs, now they want to do the same to your kids. I understand that they need to take care of your siblings, but your parents need to understand that the world does not revolve around them. Not to mention that, if you do this, your kids will know they didn't get a birthday party because of their aunt and uncle's disabilities and may resent them for it. Maybe set aside a different day so your siblings can come and you can have a more calm celebration with them. If your kids are too young to understand why, tell them it's like a special second birthday with family only. It's great you're not making the same mistakes as what your parents did, neglecting others just because they are normal. It's great they are trying to take care of your younger siblings, as they most probably feel guilty for them having the conditions that afflicted them. But to treat you and now your kids like second-rate people is just plain wrong. They want to bring your siblings out, then do it on their own time and by themselves. If they want to crash your kids' party to do so, they jolly well adjust themselves and siblings against your kids' needs. So, let me get this straight. They wanted to come to your house for your 5-year-old's birthday and bring your siblings, who have apparently lived in silence their entire lives, and expected you to shut down your child's party with their friends. I'm glad you didn't, and I'm impressed that you can understand how they feel. However, putting the world on silent is not doing them any good. They will have to leave the house sometimes and can't just expect that the entire world is going to go silent for them. Also, when your parents pass and your siblings have to go into care, it won't be silent there either. I was so shocked when this was even brought up, I thought it was a joke. My husband and I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I work full-time and he stays home with the kids and does online school. He has been trying to finish his bachelor's degree for 8 years. Due to things like having his own full-time job, difficulty focusing, and us having kids a few years ago, it has taken him a very long time. Next semester will finally be his last, but it is going to be a particularly difficult one. We have slightly discussed it may be time to put the kids in daycare, since he will need the time to focus on classes and get his degree. This week, he texted me that his sister suggested he and the kids come visit them halfway across the country for a month. I couldn't even believe it was being suggested. His sister has 4 young kids herself. I can't imagine her being okay with not having her kids that long. I would be stuck at home since I still have to work. Their idea is that his mom and sister will nanny our 2 kids. His sister is a stay-at-home mom of her 4. They say it will be a great opportunity to spend quality time with each other and for the kids to get to know their cousins, while my husband will be able to have time to focus on school. I literally started crying at work, not believing this suggestion. At first my husband was understanding of my hesitation, but eventually arguments have ensued and we are barely talking to each other over it. He says if he had had a chance to stay in school right when we got married, he could have had his school done by now, and he is so tired of being on this hamster wheel. I told him there is no way you are going to make me the villain of this story by saying since I'm not okay with my kids going away for a month, that you aren't going to be able to finish school. They can go to daycare like normal kids. However, he thinks this is some great family bonding opportunity not to be missed. Am I the idiot because I am not willing to part with my young children for a month-long span so they and my husband can go visit his family while he focuses on his last semester? Not the idiot. A month seems like a long time for your young children to be away from home. If they haven't been around their aunt, grandma and cousins much, they may be hesitant to stay with them while your husband studies. The cousins and your kids may not get along. This is a very odd request. There would need to be a lot more discussion and probing before I would agree. Just turning over your small kids to practically complete strangers. Him wanting you to travel back and forth while trying to work too is concerning. That seems like a lot of stress, traveling back and forth. I can see it from his perspective. Daycare is expensive, and if it's only a month and then he will have his degree and be done with this, plus there's free childcare and bonding with family time, that does seem tempting. But I also don't think he's taking your feelings into consideration that well here. To him, it's a temporary means to an end. To you, it's being separated from your very young children for a whole month. I don't think entertaining the offer makes him the idiot, but this is one of those things where if one parent is not on board, it should be dropped. Especially when there's another option. And he shouldn't be blaming you for not having finished yet. No idiots here. Honestly, this is not that weird to me. 4 weeks is not forever, and if you can pop up for the weekends or long weekends, it will break up faster than you think. It's not uncommon in my family for people to visit their family with the kids for the summer, while the working parent stays home and works. And no, I don't think you should assume people are trying to steal your kids. People are very fast to assume the worst here. Quite a few months ago now, a close family friend, Jay, passed away and left behind 2 cats, we'll call them Boo and Mizo, one of which he had willed to me. I was very touched and loved Boo from the first time I saw him, so I started making arrangements immediately. One issue is that, at the time, Boo had an awful habit of spraying. I figured that because Mizo bullied him, the issue would be resolved once they were living separately. I also spoke to cat behavioralists and vets who said the same thing. However, I could not be sure, so I kept him in Jay's house. Both my mom and I visited the cats regularly first and planned to do a test trial before bringing him up to my flat. One day I received a call from my mom. As it turns out, Boo was rehomed a week before she called me. When she heard that our neighbors across the street had lost their cat, she figured that they could take either Boo or Mizo. Naturally, they took Boo as he is a pedigree and very beautiful, with a placid temperament. As I had suspected, once separated from Mizo, the spraying stopped immediately. I didn't blow up at my mom on the phone, but I expressed that she should have spoken to me first and how hurt I was. I went over to visit Boo yesterday, and the neighbors were shocked at how clingy the cat is with me. They asked me why, so I told them the truth, that I had spent a lot of time with him as I had adopted him after Jay's passing. I did say that he seemed happy now, and although I miss him dearly, it would not be fair to him to move him into an unfamiliar place again after he just got settled. After I got home, I cried a lot. I said to my mother, "I wish you would have spoken to me first." She became very upset and screamed at me, calling me selfish, saying that this is what is best for Boo and that, if I really loved him, I would let him go. I said I knew that he is happy now and I don't intend to ask for him back. I just wish she had spoken to me first, and I just want her to acknowledge that. She became very angry and did not speak to me for the rest of the day. Anyways, she found out what I had said as the next time she spoke to the neighbors, they said that they felt bad, and had they known the situation, they would have spoken to me first. My mom went nuclear on me, crying and swearing. She said that I need to apologize for making the neighbors feel that way, and that I never considered how stressed she had been at that time. I knew how she had felt then, which is why I stayed calm on the phone when she had initially given me the news. I know that I should not have said anything, and I only did so out of emotion. I feel like I've upset everyone over nothing, and even my father is angry at me, saying that I'm being childish. Am I the idiot for saying something? Should I have just kept it to myself and let things lie? Everyone's the idiot here. You asked for advice on breaking Boo's habit of spaying 8 months ago. What have you been doing for the last 8 months? Leaving Boo alone with a cat who bullies him and stresses him out, and obviously leaving your mother to look after them, since you didn't even notice when she rehomed Boo. She shouldn't have rehomed him without warning you, but I can understand the frustration that drove her to it. And Boo is clearly better off with the neighbors, since you had 8 months to provide him with a home and never got around to it. You had no intention of bringing him home, and probably would have left the poor thing where he was and claimed you had a cat, while dropping in to see him twice a month for the rest of his miserable life. Not the idiot. You weren't mad at the neighbors, and the neighbors weren't mad at you. Your mom is embarrassed because she did a bad thing and she knows she did wrong. If you want to have a relationship with the cat and neighbors, assure them that you don't blame them and have to desire to take the cat back. If you want, tell them if there is any time they consider rehoming Boo, ask that they will think of you first. You're the idiot. Something is missing here. I don't understand how the cats can be taken and rehomed right from under you. You said you kept him in Jay's house and visited them regularly. Who was caring for the cats daily? To me it sounds like you are leaving out critical pieces of info. You essentially abandoned the cat and then got upset when someone else actually took a chance and decided to give the cat a home, and you saw the result of that. In my opinion, all the interpersonal drama between you and your mom is just extraneous bullcrap intended to garner sympathy and divert us from the real issue.